So you're ready. All righty. So I did post just, let's see, something to the agenda. I'm opening the agenda. Where the heck is it? There it is. So I just think it would be beneficial if the three of us would collaborate on the requirement needs for the multi-select table. I'll go ahead and share my screen once I get this open. All right. Okay. So there's been a lot of discussion within this issue regarding not only pagination, but also how we're going to handle, this more complicated view and more intricate view of what we're going to be showing the user. So, and I left you a comment, Ilya. I don't know if you've taken a look at what Andy has already started. He's done just a fantastic job of, creating this issue in regards to enhancing the capabilities for enterprise users.
Yeah, and I had an opportunity to view it.
Cool, cool. Yeah, so he's done a lot of great work, but I just want to make sure, I actually have a meeting with him tomorrow that I can go over this.
Is he building a table from scratch, or are we just taking some library that exists out there? Because I know there's some good functional tables to be had.
I can ask. I'm not exactly sure. I would assume that he's pulling it from our library.
From what I saw, like he's not focusing on, like he's reusing as much Bootstrap as possible in terms of UX, but we do not have any kind of specific like table library selected.
Okay. Because I mean, this is very much needed, and like any enterprise product has a very robust table component that is able to filter and search and multi-select and do actions on rows, drag and drop rows around to move things around, paginate. There's a lot of action buttons in row as well to create new things and parent things. So pretty much work as a tree. So that type of component is just a lot to build, and I know that there's a lot, there's some out there that we can maybe take and extend with what we need, but maybe faster than just building it from scratch. That's why I kind of asked. Something to consider. We'll see.
Well, and that's that brings up an interesting point, because Andy has this scheduled for 13.8, which I would assume is, just the design, obviously just the design work. But then I asked him this tomorrow, like, how long is this going to take, basically, and this comes down to what are the needs for import? Do we need to figure out kind of the interim step before this glorious, new UI is released into the wild?
So based on my experience, implementing this will take a very long time. And I mean that even with not fully defined scope, what we currently have in this issue, the total implementation of this one could take like 3, 4, 5 milestones of single person job, and I'm not sure I'm the person who wants to to do that, although it seems that we in import are in great need of that. So for this issue, and I'm actively keeping an eye on that and thinking about this, it is very important to first of all slice like minimal possible pieces we need from one point of view, but from another keep in mind the whole picture, because based on my experience with all that complex grids, it is very hard to consider all limitations if they were not properly reviewed at the very first phase. So we should be very careful at the start point of implementation, considering, okay, we understand that we kind of fixing the requirement for 1, 2, 3, 4 milestones, and or otherwise we will suffer a great pain from engineering side.
Oh yeah, you know, you poor engineers, they always get the tail end crunch.
Yeah, if import is to do, if import is to contribute to this, I think, we would need to start with a starting point. So start with some kind of a table that has a lot of the functionality that we have. So do some research between different component libraries and pick one that gets us the closest to where we need to be. And then iterate on it. Then like take it as is, put it in, and then we'll iterate. We'll iteratively add things that it doesn't have that we need. And it may actually have everything that we need. Like pagination is fairly standard in these things. And it's like one of our main needs.
So Harris, then who should research that? Is that something you want me to take on as far as, the interim step? What's the example of a flexible table?
this issue right now, where is it?
What do you mean?
Like what group is it with? Who's doing?
Oh, I think this is just Andy working on something, updating the pajamas library. So I think this is something he just kind of took on his own, and he might have a need within security, but I'm not aware. Or here in the vulnerability list. So there is a need within his stage group.
Yeah, just to give you an idea, like 95% probability that we will pick the component I've linked, just because our GitLab UI library, which is our implementation of pajamas, is built on top of Bootstrap View, and like it already has part of requested functionality, and it will be easier to start with it than with any other options, or otherwise we will spend additional time dealing with Bootstrap, interacting with tables, integrating with initial look and feel, and so on and so on. There are some features there, like filtering, like pagination, and so on already.
I see asynchronous data, events, sorting, filtering, pagination. That's great. I think what we would need to implement, like not now, but like as we iterate, we might need to add the ability to handle a tree.
Yes, just to quickly have an understanding, what do you have? You could open that link and scroll to the link which is in Zoom, and scroll to the complete component example, and to see like how it looks and feels.
Scroll to the exam, scroll down.
I mean, yes, you have like
Stop my sharing for a second.
On the right, you can see the list, I believe, the table of contents, and there should be complete examples there.
Yeah, sorting, filtering, pagination. I mean, it's great start.
Yes, it is the great start, but still implementing tree will be like the most painful one, the most painful thing.
I know. So how much work would it be to just insert this table instead of the table that we currently have without any additional functionality? Like we may get pagination for free, like whatever we get for free, fine. But like without implementing anything extra, just using this table instead of that and get pagination from it, as opposed to having to implement pagination into the page that we have currently.
So It is tricky because, for example, it is tricky because it really depends on the backend. Why? When you look at the demo and you, for example, sort based on some column, it's just a client-side sorting, and this is not how it works in the real world. So it really a good question how it will work with the backend side. If we speak just about pagination, it is quite simple to do if we have a proper pagination support on the backend again. And for example, as you remember, there is no good way to implement pagination for GitHub importers and so on and so on. I mean, project importers, just because we have no way to properly build a pagination offset there. Probably remember we discussed it some time long ago. So it really depends. It is not big deal from the front end side. I mean, it should be doable within one milestone, I think, but it might require a heavy support on backend and heavy additions to backend, which obviously it's pretty hard for me to evaluate.
Well, I mean, the right approach to this is really for me to stay out of the technical solution and just to specify the requirements that we have, the functional requirements that we have. So we have what we have right now. The next thing we're going to work on is pagination. I think I would leave it up to you whether you feel like it's a better technical solution to switch to this table and make its pagination work, or just implement pagination as is, because we will just keep adding requirements, and the next thing is going to be filtering and so on, right? Eventually, maybe, so the ability to do checkbox, like, you know, select many and then do an action on them. We will never need the ability to drag and drop things around. But if you look at like epic management, like, you know, portfolio management, people have epics and issues, and they want to be able to just move issue from one epic to another, or one epic to be higher priority than another. So, you know, later in GitLab, there will be need for drag and drop on some of this data as well, but that's not our concern. Like, I would like for us to iterate on one requirement at a time. At the point where you feel like this is the right solution to put in, given the requirements, then you would pull the trigger then. That's...
Yeah, based on requirements, what I saw currently, I mean, pagination, filtering you mentioned, and so on and so on. This does not feel for me as the right solution in like team scope, in the group scope. I mean, we will be able to faster iterate on the existing implementation, basically because I'm familiar with it. I understand its limitations, and things like pagination already available in pajamas, because we saw it in GitHub in previous version of GitHub importer and so on and so on. But just to make sure we understand that if some like other team in GitLab picks this one, I don't know, vulnerability management and so on, we in fact will end implementing two solutions with similar functionality, and either team will require additional effort of like throwing away a solution just for consistency, or paying for maintaining two of them. Just a side note, I'm still like not 100% sold. We need like a such overkill component like implemented everywhere. While I definitely appreciate this work, I'm still thinking how I feel about that, just because based on my experience with GitLab as a product, our requirements for tables are like quite different in different spaces. So like each time we will require a different subset of that functionality. And it's usually like you always need to pay a price for functionality which is there and you are not using. Sometimes it's making things more complex and so on and so on. like I understand that a lot of enterprise grade products have, they call this grids. But this is usually when they visualize a lot of data in the same way, like any kind of CRM systems and so on and so on. So a lot of complex grids implemented in the same way across the entire application. And I do not feel 100% this is a GitLab way. So that's why I probably still thinking about if this is a right way to approaching this problem, or instead just writing a precise and good, well-documented guidelines how we expect the pagination, filtering, and so on implemented in pajamas, and leaving to engineering to properly compose that pieces and proceed forward.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like if we actually had this as part of our component library, like if this table was used elsewhere, then there would definitely be pressure for us to be consistent, even if it's an overkill. But the library is already loaded, and it's not there. We're not introducing complexity that hasn't already been introduced, right? But in cases where I don't think we should be the first ones to do this. I agree with you that just what we have right now works for us. However, if there was a more powerful table, it would be useful to us. Like it would be useful to be able to have more powerful filtering, sorting, and the functionality. But I don't think that's something that I would make a requirement. So my requirement is still going to be just the pagination and so on. It's like we'll just keep adding requirements. If at any point somebody else picks a table and we have it, we may consider the cost of switching to that or staying where we are. Can't hear you.
Sorry, wrong button. So if we decide to proceed with the tree thing, it will be way more faster to implement with current solution, because current solution is simple in terms of other pieces, and integrating the tree to the existing table, bootstrap table, could vary from hard to impossible.
Fair enough. All right, so we'll just continue doing what we're doing. I think it will still be valuable what Amanda asked to do, which is list our requirements so that we spell out what our requirements are right now and what our requirements are for the things we have in design, so things we have in the pipeline. So pagination, search/filtering, being able to multi-select and then do an action on it, and the tree. So those are, I believe, the requirements that we have so far. But it'd be great to just list them for us so that we know to sort of share this with whoever is evaluating a table, and then we can evaluate, whatever solution against that.
Cool.
Yeah.
So should we? Oh, go ahead.
Go on. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say, so should we start making a list? But you probably had something to add.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask or share a thought about the second issue mentioned in our agenda. I mean, which is about actually implementing group migration list pagination. This is actually a complex decision about picking the standard pagination or infinite scrolling from engineering point of view, because I still have a feeling that we are in great risk, and we probably should discuss it with backend team, that with new requirements coming up, we could end exactly in the same situation we had with the GitHub importer for projects. I mean, when we realize that currently it is impossible to build a proper pagination because we are unable to calculate the page offsets, and I simply can't understand in my mind how we will build a page-based pagination if we will implement a tree. So I'm just want to make sure we do not proceed with a dead-end solution like we already had the issue with the GitHub pagination importer.
Well, Ilya did. Oh, goodness gracious.
I saw the link, the prototype. I've attempted to open it and it says me prototype not found.
Of course it does. So I'll update that. But I did see, if you go to groups, like there is a view where we use pagination along with a tree view. So you can, is that what you're, I guess. Here, let me share my screen.
Yeah, GitLab.com/groups, I believe.
Yeah, and like when you open up the subgroups and projects, they still have that tree view. But if you scroll to the bottom, you know, we show 20 per page, but when the row is expanded,
it just shows more. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't show any less. Like there's still 20 top level items that are shown.
20 top level entries in the table, and then each one that gets expanded adds more. So you can show more than 20 for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, and there is, yeah, but I still would like to check this one with the backend because this is just a bit different. Like here we are using the private API of our local GitLab instance. And when we are building this one, we are talking to the public API of another GitLab instance. And just to make sure that this will possible. I understand the current UX. I find it sometimes a bit hard and confusing, especially when you combine filtering and pagination. But I've got the point.
I agree. And I think we should probably just iterate in that direction. So I don't think, I mean, we can list some of the requirements so that if somebody's evaluating these tables, if we're evaluating tables, we know what the requirements are. But I don't think we need to solve the groupings or the tree, any of that yet. I think we can just solve the pagination, and then pagination may have to evolve or not. Like I completely agree with what Amanda showed, which is, if it's 20, it is a 20 top level entry. So 20 things show up. And then if you expand, of course, you have to show everything that's in there. You can,
Yeah, and just to make sure we do not show everything which is in there, we also paginate internal items.
That's possible too.
You just make a search on GitLab and it will show you, like filtering on Word GitLab for groups, and we will see that. It's a good example, I believe. Yeah, it takes a long. Oh yeah, here we go. 37 more items and something like that on the second.
I see that.
Yeah.
So we paginate, like when you expand, it doesn't show everything. It lets you sort of lazy load paginate inline, whatever you call that.
Yeah. Here, I couldn't figure out what y'all are talking about.
Yeah, that inline pagination.
Well, is that
it is very obvious. Yes, I know.
So, weird.
Yeah.
So there's some sort of rule, I guess, that if you hit a certain number, then you have to link out to.
Yes. I'm just giving an idea because, well, this is, like I said, a very tricky one.
Oh, that's weird too. They use a external link icon, but it doesn't open a new window.
It is not actually external. Yes, no. I know.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, we'll have to deal with this. This is going to be complicated, but I feel like, there are some ideas, like it seems feasible.
Yeah, it's just about gathering the ideas, how it works currently.
And for us, the complicating factor will be also the checkboxes in that table.
Well, and really there's just going to be, I mean, from a UI perspective, this is way more complicated than I'm making it sound, but there'll just be, an area to the left of all of the groups and subgroups that is just a column of checkboxes.
There's a column separate from everything that's a checkbox for each one.
Yeah. Yeah. Way easier said than done. I get it.
Right. It's just a checkbox column.
Yeah. All right, cool. So do we want to quickly go down a list of requirements, just so we capture it?
Yeah, let's list what we know so far, and then we can, if we remember something, we can go back to the list and add.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is for our table component, right? Yeah.
Specific for, yes, import. All right. So we said.
So we said the ability
tree
to,
view? Okay.
yeah, tree, sure. Representing a tree. Pagination.
Checkboxes.
Sorry, Ilya, what did you say? Checkboxes.
Yes, exactly.
And then the combination of the three above. So
yes, and this is like
pagination of checkboxes while that show up in the tree, right? It's like
yeah, while filtering.
while filter, good. Yeah, filter is another one, but also all four working actually together, not just one at a time.
Yes, and this is like the worst engineering nightmare.
Yeah, this is this is 4 to the 4th power. Yeah.
It's like 2, yeah, the 4 power, like 16 hours complex.
So support tree view, pagination, of course, checkboxes, and here I'm just gonna do.
Yeah, filter, not search. I think we need to be more specific with the words we use. I think recently we have learned that filter was the correct word for us to use in our context, not search.
Okay, so
you were correct. Yeah, filter was correct. We had search elsewhere, and then people thought that search might actually just replace their view, versus filter. It just seems like it's just going to show fewer things. Like everything you see right now, you're going to see fewer of those, but it's like keeping the same view.
Anything else? Subgroup. How do I say this? Basically, when we saw the 37 and the external link or whatever take us to a new page, what is that called? Like maybe that's something we need to consider. Like you said, Ilya, what if?
Well, that's a combination of pagination and supporting the tree.
Yeah.
That's having those two things work together.
You're right. Well, this is a pretty simple list. I'm sure it'll get more complex once we figure stuff out. We're like, oh, we didn't think about that.
It is complex enough to take someone busy for a long time.
I understand that. And Ilya, I hear you have all the time in the world. So this is going to be, I'm joking, by the way. I heard the opposite.
Yeah, I've already had an experience of building one component for pajamas for, I believe, 4 milestones in a row. So that's why I'm probably a bit scared.
What was the component?
It was filtered search.
Oh, really?
Yes, because it is a doom for building it at least accessible as it could be. I mean, making keyboard navigation works properly, making so everything works properly. And for example, current version, which is still used, for example, for issue search, is still buggy as hell. And anyone who uses it knows that it behaves not in the best way in the world. So we have like a good replacement, but it still needs effort from other teams to replace it.
So what about sorting and grouping?
You mean like, yes, grouping and sorting are different things, definitely. But I'm not sure if we need a grouping use case for our.
I think the use case that I'm thinking about is I just want to see all the things that I can import. So I don't want to see the things that have already been imported. So maybe I just want to sort by whether it was imported or not, or I want to sort by, so I want to sort by status instead of sorting by the name.
Yeah.
Grouping would be more like, I wouldn't say grouping. Grouping would be another tree thing, and then that's not right. Like I would just sort or filter, but I wouldn't group.
Yeah,
So,
and also I remember in prototypes Amanda shown us some time ago, the sorting actually about like what you're saying to see what could be imported is done via tabs. So we had tabs like available for import, in progress, and completed, and all.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put the tab as a requirement. I would put the requirement as whatever the user needs to be able to do. So the user needs to be able to see these things separately from each other.
Yes, it's
actually, whether it's
like,
implemented as a tab or a sort or a filter.
You know what?
I don't feel like this is a requirement for this component.
But Harris, we already have table header sorting. So let's say they want to do sort by status. You click on, well, maybe. I know it's in.
We don't have it yet. I would say we need to put in requirements. Like if we're talking about this, it needs to be listed in the requirements. Then I feel like we'll have it, whether we have it or not. Like we will need table header sorting.
Well, I'll just leave it as sorting.
Yeah. Okay.
And we can figure out the nitty gritty. Okay, so sorting. So we'll just continue, I guess, to add to this list once we get into everything. But I think this is a good list to start out with. So Ilya, just to confirm, you would rather build upon what we currently are using within.
Yes, for now I feel iterating on what we currently have, like similar to project imports, is the most efficient way for us to proceed as a group.
Cool. I can get behind that.
It's a technical decision, so I have to get behind that.
Yeah, yep. You have no say, Harris.
That is correct.
All right, well, we're 3 minutes past. Ilya, do you have anything you want to quickly get in? Okay.
No, I feel we are fine, and like I'm happy because like I'm feeling like we are proceeding with most boring solution, which is like what is expected from us.
Hey, if it gets out the door faster, then that's what we need to do.
And this may be something to bring up sort of in the manage front-end development chat, whatever that is, because I believe that the table component will be more important to some of the other groups in manage, such as analytics. So that may be who needs to also put their requirements together and even what maybe lead on implementing this. But it's still all under manage. So I feel like manage development should lead on figuring this out.
Yeah, let's look and see who will pick up a short straw.
Dennis?
I mean, in terms of front-end engineers.
Cool. Awesome. Well, y'all have a great rest of the day and holler at me if you need anything.
You too.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Bye. See ya.
Bye.